Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 195. I am Annie Fuchsia, or also known as Annie. I am a full-time streamer on Twitch, mostly playing World of Warcraft. And today we will be covering the last new things that have been going on in the World of Warcraft universe. Before we get into that, let me introduce my lovely co-host, Perculia.
Hey everyone, I'm Perk. I run Wowhead, so overseeing all the news and guides and features that go on the site. And it's been a few weeks since I've been, in front of this camera doing a show. Either we didn't have a show or I was here, but there was a picture of me and Brightpaw. But I'm here now, so we're back to covering Rise of Ashara at PTR. And we've got some other things with Blizzcon going on. And then some interesting news from last week. We also want to cover the Dreadwake mount. Before we start, we have a giveaway in Twitch chat. It is a Brightpaw pet, obviously, because of his destruction.
Brightpaw.
And yes, and the keyword to enter is purr, P-U-R-R.
Purr.
Yes. Now, if he was only here, I could hold him up, but he's not here because he's the boss. So he decides when he makes a cameo appearance.
Yeah, it's great to have you back, Perk.
Yeah.
We had one.
I had a fun trip.
That's great to hear. We had 1 week off, and then we had the 2 streams with just Perk on camera. So now we've got a live Perk with us. So that's great.
Yep.
And we got to see some live action of Brightpaw earlier as well.
Yep. Still many more things for him to knock off. So maybe he'll be back.
All right, because that will technically be before the actual show now. But yeah, he was in the background knocking things off Perk's shelves. As you can see, the proof is still there. And then he decided to walk off. Enough of my attention for today, human. But yeah, BlizzCon news.
So we thought we'd cover that first as opposed to the PTR because they're going on sale this Saturday. So BlizzCon dates November 1st and 2nd. That is right after Halloween. It's Anaheim Convention Center as usual. There are some differences. One difference is that there's no goodie bag this year. You instead choose a Horde or Alliance soldier. And it's more of like a big figurine. It's not like a little small thing. And if you don't know which to get, you can buy the other one on the Blizzard Gear Store, also on the 4th. So what are your thoughts on this? Like, I think I'm at a point where I would prefer one larger collectible than a bunch of little, stickers and keychains and all that. And it might be fun for novelty, but then after a while, like there's only, so many stickers you can get or magnets on your fridge.
I kind of feel the same. Okay, I just noticed that I expected this picture to slide through to the human version, but apparently it wasn't a slideshow, so I have to manually change it. There we go. So that's the orc version and the human version. I agree. I think getting a big box or big bag of a lot of different random things that you probably won't end up really using that much anyways is a little bit of a waste. So this could be cooler. But at the same time, it kind of feels empty.
Yeah, I see. Like, if suppose you're going for Overwatch and you're like, oh, I have this Alliance.
Oh, that's
soldier.
a good point too. I didn't even think about other games. Yeah, that's a very good point too. So it feels a little bit like you go there and then you get one thing. A little bit possibly underwhelming. Also, how big is the figurine? Do we know?
That is a great question. Let me pull it up on the second monitor and see. I'm sure it has to say.
Because in the past, when we get the goodie bags, usually there's one piece of something which is quite big, right? Like I don't know, it could be like a cup or anything. What were the old things? Sass says it's 9 inches tall. What is 9 inch? 9 inches in European size.
So Pepe is 6. So like a Pepe and a half, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Pepe, you can stay out.
23 centimeters.
Yeah. It's but yeah, and anyone can buy the opposite statue, so it's not like, oh, I'm a ticket holder, I can buy an extra one if I want. Anyone, you don't have to go to BlizzCon. Which, I mean, it's interesting, but it's also nice to feel like if you're going to the convention, you have like a little you have a little token of going there, I guess. Because as we'll cover in the ticket pricing and tiers, it seems like the base tier is feeling less special this year than in past years. So to elaborate more on the tiers, there are 3 tiers this year instead of 2. The first tier is the Attend BlizzCon tier, and you get the goodie bag for $229, which is a $30 increase.
Yeah,
You also get the digital goodies.
it's a little bit that as well. Like you're getting fewer things, possibly one cooler thing, but still fewer things, and you're paying more. Do you know the reason for the price increase?
Well, I mean, there's always inflation and, cost of living. And it is in a very expensive area. And usually conventions have a lot of volunteers, but Blizzard has employees doing it. So there are a lot of costs. And, it does make sense why things have to increase in cost. But I think it's kind of unfortunate timing with, all the layoffs and no Gamescom as we're seeing this year. And then this other tier, which we'll talk about in just a minute, that is even more expensive. But I mean, I assume it's a very expensive show to put on. If they need money to cover costs, then, they should charge more so people, so they're not losing money, so people can be reimbursed for working overtime.
Yeah.
But I think the controversy came not just from the increase, but because there is the portal tier, which is $550. And it seems to merge together a bunch of things, and I feel mixed about it because there are some very useful things, like if you have a family and you get priority parking or a special, lounge to relax at, or you get to skip some of the lines. That all sounds, very convenient. But then the Portal Pass also has things which, I don't know, give a vibe of exclusivity, or that you are like, you don't have the true fan experience. Like the lounge will give you exclusive access to like Blizzard devs and celebrities, or you get to go to the Darkmoon Faire a day early and buy even more collectibles. And I don't know, I don't like the idea that there are parts of BlizzCon a fan that's already paid to go to can't access.
So for the Darkmoon Faire the day before, only people with this pass are able to access that.
Yeah. Okay. And like personally, I very rarely get stuff from the Darkmoon Faire. Like I'm always working. I remember last year I was trying to, get the Moonkin plushies, and I went there Saturday after my work shift, and they were sold out, and the line was an hour long, and it's just like, okay, well, I'll just have to deal with it. Like I was disappointed, but it's like, I'm not a bad fan because I don't have the biggest plush collection. I'll just enjoy it. And I feel like this is like, stratifying stuff more, being like, oh, like, I was able to pay $300 more to,
that's the thing,
spend money on even more collectibles. Yeah. And I know that this is common across the industry. If there are like special pass, skip the line, like all that makes sense. But I think it's just that extra angle of like, be in the lounge with the celebrities and, pay that much more to collect stuff. And I think a lot of people, like, obviously you have to spend a lot to get to BlizzCon, but I do think there are people that do, they do have to budget to attend BlizzCon. Like, my first BlizzCon, it was very much like, okay, like, can we, get the tickets? And like, was it too late to get the room? Can we get a budget room? And I don't know, I think that people might feel disappointed if they, there's suddenly like an extra 300 in the mix, that they feel they won't get the ultimate experience if they don't pay more. Plus, we just covered with the goodie bag, if anyone can buy the special goodie bag prize, it, takes away from, like, oh, I went to BlizzCon and, I felt like really, special and valued, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it will still be really special, and they are just adding value to the portal tier, but I don't know. I think that the utility of the portal tier is okay, but then when you start adding on, like, mingle with the devs in the lounge, that takes away from the fantasy that BlizzCon is, where, you know, we're all
like friendly
mingling and celebrating and being friendly. Like, it makes it seem like, oh, like, you know, you're a fan, but like, are you like a rich fan? So
yeah.
like I personally don't have all the collector's editions, like, you know, Power if you collected them, but I was like, I just couldn't, you know, afford them in early WoW. So when I see things like, you know, like, oh, I got my collection, like, I'm like, you know, I'm a fan now, or like, I need this. It's like, well, like, you know, I just had to deal with not being able to afford cool stuff and still come to terms with being a fan. So, yeah, I mean, don't feel bad if you can't afford the Portal tier.
Yeah,
but
because it is very expensive. It's more than 2 tickets for
yeah,
1 ticket, and I mean, I understand, like you said, it's a very common thing to have more expensive tickets for special conveniences or access, but the question is it worth that much more? Maybe they should have had different tiers, maybe like more tiers.
yeah. I think I would have been okay with less for just the utility. But like I said, I mean, you know, Wowhead throws a community party. There are other places like Calm Before the Storm, and it just, I don't know, it just feels more corporate to be like, oh, like you get more access if you pay more, when, you know, a lot of the community events are just like, oh, you know, everyone's welcome. We do meet and greets. Like, we want devs to attend. It just, I don't know. I feel like it's more in the spirit of the event to just have everyone like mingling together, and not like, oh, like I can get a dev autograph if I, you know, pay to go to this lounge.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it's an old convention. It's good that they're trying to innovate. It's just with the timing of, you know, the layoffs and the BFA reception and everything else going on, it seems like the ticket price increase and this Portal tier the same year seems kind of yeah, it seems like it kind of would get a risky reaction. Not to mention that a lot of the people that were let go at Blizzard were doing things like community and esports, and that is, you know, the soul of BlizzCon. So I hope that they're not biting off more they can chew by adding all these, you know, extra tiers and having 3 days of Darkmoon Faire versus 2 when they are already very, you know, short stretched on making sure the event happens.
I was actually just going to mention that as well. The fact that the Darkmoon Faire is available a day before means technically there's a lot more people working more hours and extra. So maybe that also makes sense, in the sense that they'll have more costs, basically, because it just went from 2-day event to 3 or 2.5. I'm not sure how long the Darkmoon Faire will be available.
It's only 4 to 8. So I was a little nervous when I saw that, because, you know, the Wowhead party is always at 5 or 6 p.m. And I really appreciate everyone reaching out to me that was, you know, concerned about it. But the party's continuing as normal. Usually it gets busy around 7. Yeah. When that's also Halloween.
It's also Halloween?
Yeah, it's the 31st. So
oh wow.
It's like, it seems to be an interesting time to celebrate.
Indeed.
But yeah, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Like, the Wowhead party usually gets busy around 7, and that's when the Darkmoon Faire is winding down. So shouldn't be the end of the world. But you know, like, I'm reading this and I'm like, they're like, oh, we have festivities Thursday night, and I'm like, oh, but we do festivities too. Like, please don't kill the event. But it should work out okay. I just, you know, I'm sure some people are also thinking like, oh, so like the Portal Pass is competing with, you know, the community parties. Like, you know, it has that weird divide. Like, oh, community parties are for free, and like, but if you pay $600, you know, get to go to the Darkmoon Faire. So I don't think
very not nice taste in the mouth. The access is between 8 and 10, and was it?
Sorry, the access. No,
4 to 10, 4 to 8.
4 to 8, and the Wowhead party is usually like 6 to whenever. We might not have it as long as 2 a.m., but yeah.
So you can go after that anyway, so it's not too bad then.
Yeah, so it's not, when they said we're having an evening thing, it's not as dire as I thought it would be. Yeah.
All right.
But another thing that people should know is that there's always the benefit dinner pass. That's always $7.50. It's back this year. Yes, it's expensive, but the money does go to charity. And you get signed artwork if you sign up for this tier. And the important thing to know about the benefit tier is that it's going on sale with the other tickets. In the past, it had a special night, but no, everything this year is all on the same days, which is May 4th at 10 Pacific. So that's like 7 European time, I think, 9 hours ahead. And then Wednesdays, May 8th at 7 p.m. Pacific. So you only have those 2 days to enter. I know usually the benefit's always like a week after that, but it's not this year.
Okay. So it's the same days.
Yeah. But in addition to some of the exclusivity stuff that I'm not totally sold on, there's some more improvements to BlizzCon in general, which I think I'm more on board with. There are pregame festivities that will take place in the courtyard outside the convention on October 1st from 9 to 5 p.m., and that is open to anyone. I believe you just need the ticket to attend. So, I think that's pretty nice. It's nice to have a part of BlizzCon that isn't just like, announcement, news. Well, so I'm curious to see what they'll do.
Sorry for interrupting. That means, again, that there is more activities than the previous day. So it is like a full extra day.
Yeah, I mean, that does explain why the cost went up. They have to staff people for, the extra festivities. Which, I think that's a fair
price
point.
Increase makes sense then, from 200 to 230.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not exactly, because the Darkmoon Faire is only available to the extra tickets.
Right. But at the lobby,
but still, the pregame festivities, 9 a.m. to 5.
They didn't say what was in the festivities, but I remember one year they had the guy that plays Hodor. I think it was the Diablo anniversary. They had like a concert outside. That stuff's not, cheap.
Yeah.
But I am curious to see what they're going to do, especially because usually there's a bunch of food trucks out there. So it's like, I need to eat. Like, where are my food trucks going to go?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Also, Hall E, which they formerly use for registration, that is all Darkmoon Faire, and the registration is going somewhere else off-site. So that should be interesting. I wonder, so I was wondering about the logistics and what they might be announcing. I had this whole plan in my head, and then it changed when they didn't announce Gamescom, which we'll get to in a minute, but when I was thinking about the Darkmoon Faire being in the convention center and being open a day early, I'm like, oh my god, the leaks, like, are we not getting an expansion if people can just be like roaming around the convention center a day in advance? So I was starting to be like, oh, like, will Gamescom be 825 and then like, BlizzCon be 83 and, the next expansion at PAX or something? I had no idea, but I wonder if Hall E is sealed off enough that you can't wander into the main convention center, because that seems really stressful.
Yeah. Because last year with, for example, Diablo Immortal, like, you would be able to see the phones that are just laying around, and that would be a spoiler. So if you would see that a day before, you may not know what it is, but you'd see that there's some kind of mobile game there. So I don't know.
It still seems like it could be risky. Like, I mean, they have book signings. Like, suppose they're announcing, a book tied into the next patch or reveal, and it's like, oh, there's this book lying around, or there is, a pin of N'Zoth, or there's a face painting station, and oh, you can get your face painted with like a bunch of tentacles or undead. Like, I feel like there could be opportunities to see all these little details.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Blizzard has obviously thought about this. It just seems really... It seems really risky, especially, I remember there's always leaks that come before the convention center. Like, you always see them. Like, I think the year BFA came out, people knew that both BFA and Tides of Vengeance were both names in the running for the expansion, and then both were used. Like, you see them on forums. People just share the stuff. They're like, oh, I took a picture when someone was doing the rehearsals. So, I don't know. I hope there's not a, leak fiasco with all that stuff.
No, I hope so too. I'm sure they are thinking about it, and they'll make sure. Registration will move off-site. So where do you think that would be?
I mean, maybe
there's just hotels there. Like, there's nothing else around.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess they could take over a hotel lobby, or they could set up a bunch of tents.
Yeah, maybe tents.
I don't know. it
Since they're
was
using the
pretty.
courtyard, maybe I don't
I
know.
could also see that being a better flow because the security last year was really bad,
Oh, it
and I think
was really bad.
I got bad instructions. So someone was like, "Oh, your media, go to this line," and they're like, "No, go somewhere else." And like,
Yeah.
"Why did you go here?" And I'm like, "Oh God, now I'm in trouble."
Yep.
So I don't know. But maybe moving this to a different place will have less of a mad line for people trying to pick up passes and deal with security, and then other people just trying to get into the convention.
Mm-hmm.
It was also really bad if you tried going from the Hilton to the Marriott. Like you had to like make this gigantic loop
Yeah, I
around
remember.
the entire road.
It was really bad. It was blocking everything.
I do appreciate the extra security though, and I'm not quite sure, but I mean, security is expensive, and I don't think there was a price increase last year. And I do appreciate
Oh,
how they're
that's a good
checking
point.
people's
Yeah.
bags. So, I mean, that security is going to be expensive and add up
Mm-hmm.
too.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I have people saying weird stuff to me, I'm sure that people that are like way more famous than me also had, security concerns.
Of course.
Uh,
One thing
but
that
yeah,
secured, I'm not sure if I had that problem there. Probably not. Um, Selfie sticks. I feel like sometimes when different places have security, like too strict security, they just don't let you have selfie sticks, which is funny. But I'm
interesting.
not sure if I don't think that was a problem at BlizzCon because of media badge. Um,
Yeah.
I think other
I feel like
people
you
weren't able
couldn't
to use
bring
it.
electronics in, but media could.
Yeah.
Um, so like, laptops weren't allowed except media could bring them in.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, so obviously I'm gonna be trying to get, that media pass again and trying to lock things in place, like, hotels.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure this is not high priority for Blizzard, but I don't know how much access the Media Pass will grant this year. So I'm sort of like, oh well, if media is basic, like, do I want to see the Darkmoon Faire and
Yeah.
come night on Wowhead?
Yeah, what happens
I
then? Do
sort
you
of,
have to like skip the media pass entirely and like
yeah.
dish out $550?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Obviously, it's amazing to even get a free media pass, and I'm sure Blizzard doesn't have the application process open yet, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure like does the media pass get to buy stuff at the Darkmoon Faire early is not their top, thing
Mm-hmm.
to deal with this month. But yeah, I mean, I know lots of people that are media are also big fans of the game, and they would be curious, what's up with those sorts of extra things.
Indeed. And we're speaking of events, going from the US to Europe, one of the biggest Blizzard, I guess, appearances you could say, has always been
Yeah.
at Gamescom every year, apparently since 2009. But now, for the first time since then, Blizzard will not have a booth.
Yeah, it was super shocking to me. Like I thought they would definitely have a presence, especially with how they were, ramping up 8.2 info and the summer, has classic WoW, and I assume they could use Gamescom to say
Very good
what's coming
point.
next.
Classic WoW, yeah.
Like, finally reveal those Worgen and Goblin models and like celebrate classic WoW and let's get some, I don't know, speed dungeons going
Mm-hmm.
and yes, but there's no Gamescom.
It's so weird to
And
me.
yeah, I was really shocked to see that announcement, especially because the tickets for Gamescom were already on sale. So, and I know Blizzard, I've never been there, but correct me if I'm wrong, Blizzard takes, obviously it's a huge convention, but Blizzard rents a significant part of it. Like, they have half a hall or
Mm-hmm.
something
Mm-hmm.
large. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are European fans that go because they want to go to the Blizzard specific events, and they always do something cool no matter what. Like it's basically European BlizzCon. That's how I
Yeah, it
understand it.
is.
Would
It's
you
like a
would you
mini
agree?
BlizzCon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed always fun. Like they always do the cosplay contest.
Mm-hmm.
They always there's like the raid races with different like celebrities. They have like events like the Legion Cafe. They've always announced major things, and it's actually been getting bigger for WoW in past years. Like just off the top of my head, they had the Mists of Pandaria cinematic. They had the Warlords release date and revealed the final boss. They announced Legion there. That's pretty big. They announced the Karazhan patch before Legion even came out. They gave the 7/3 release date. They had the Overwatch shorts for, Bastion in May. And even this past year, they revealed the Warbringer's Shara. And it just seemed to be a good mix of cool things for hype and then little fun events the community could participate in.
Yeah.
So I'm really sad not to see it there. I've never actually gone to one, and I was thinking at some point it would actually be, cool to attend because it seemed less news heavy than, a BlizzCon for Wowhead. So it seemed to be like a cool mix of, covering and doing some work, but also just enjoying the events going on. So they said it's coming back, but
they did say that?
I mean, in the future, they're like, we're just focusing on our development, but I don't know. It was definitely sad.
It feels very strange, especially with you mentioning Classic as well. It feels very fitting to have an event just around that time. So that's going to feel quite empty. And with the US being a very big trip for people who live in Europe, having Gamescom was a great way for people to meet, maybe some of their favorite devs or anyone from Blizzard. Being able to go there to visit the store as well, getting all the goodies. And the sort of mini Darkmoon Faire that they had over there as well. Everything was very special to the European sort of BlizzCon, I guess you could call it. And now with that being gone, it's quite sad. And you mentioned that the Gamescom tickets were already out. What if people already bought them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was people trolling, but I mean, there was a lot of people being like, "Oh, I was looking forward to this. Like, I always, plan a few days to go do Blizzard stuff." And it seems really weird in light of TwitchCon EU because, Twitch always had a convention around BlizzCon in California, same place. And this past year, they just expanded to EU, right? That was the first time. And
yeah, it was. And it was successful.
Yeah, so...
And Blizzard's going backwards. What's the opposite of expand?
Yeah, de-expand. I can't de-expand.
I don't know. But yeah, they did the opposite.
Yeah, downsize. Yeah.
Downsize. Contract. But yeah, they went the other direction. There was something else I was going to say about Gamescom. Oh, I remember talking to you about Gamescom like a few weeks ago, like already thinking about like just assuming Blizzard is going to be there.
Yeah.
And we were like
trying
to
do like
plan.
an IRL stream like around the Blizzard booth. And
exactly. Yeah. And now it's not even there. So wait, I just realized I'm probably not going to Gamescom anymore.
Oh no.
Yeah, I have no reason to be there. Well,
oh no.
Like BlizzCon was well, not BlizzCon, but the Blizzard booth was one of the main reasons I would go to Gamescom. I remember they had an amazing Fortnite hall at Gamescom, but apart from that, I actually don't think I'll be going Gamescom anymore.
Oh no. I'm like that's really sad. I mean, like there's so many. I mean, I remember a few years ago, Blizzard was flying US content creators out to Gamescom to experience it. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was so cool. And that's really sad how they're bringing people from the US over to experience it. And now, like, you are in the EU and you're like, I don't have any reason to go to this.
Yeah, it feels kind of pointless.
They were building it up so much and then just stopped.
I think, if I remember correctly, last year's Blizzard booth or Blizzard presence was actually smaller than the year before. So I do remember that they had done some cut downs already in terms of how much space there was and just general things over there. So there was a cut down and then now it's like complete demolish. Just like not worth it. And maybe that's why they're putting a little bit more emphasis on BlizzCon with the extra day.
Yeah. I was going to say that a convention I like going to, PAX East, which is on, still the US, but it's on the opposite coast of California. Blizzard has, they haven't always had a presence, but they've more often than not in recent years done something. Like they announced Hearthstone there, and they would always have a playable beta. Like I think they had Warlords beta playable the very first week at the booths. And last year they revealed the Battle for Azeroth date at when PAX East dropped, and you could see the collector's edition in person there for the first time, and they did a round of interviews. So they had a big presence last year, and then this year they didn't do anything. But I remember I would go to PAX East and they would have parties celebrating like Hearthstone and Heroes, and I would just interview people on that and get swag like scarves and beanies and all these things. So they've cut back the presence there too, and I know people on the East Coast were also disappointed because even for them, you know, not everyone can fly over to California.
Yeah.
But they liked having the idea, you know, it wasn't as big as Gamescom by any means, but they liked having, you know, something that had a Blizzard presence. And it seems to be a big change of pace. I remember, I mean, Saz can chime in, but I feel that like 1 or 2 years ago, there were pins everywhere at all these little conventions that we were unfamiliar with, like ones in Canada and Denver, like all these random places. And now they've really cut back on, you know, just having a presence at a lot of these conventions. So I hope BlizzCon is good, but I think that Gamescom was really special. How, you know, people had lower expectations as far as the news announced there, but it was a good way. I don't know. I think people just enjoyed hanging out and doing the silly, you know, trivia and activities. And you could tell that the Europe community team put a lot of love into Gamescom. Like they always had key art, you know, like custom art for the event. They always had EU giveaways for people at home, which I thought was really sweet. And yeah, I hope they can, you know, it can come back. And, you know, I feel like this was also a victim of the layoffs, again, targeting community and esports and things that are not developers.
Yep. I mean, hopefully this means that the BlizzCon will have more emphasis, more effort put into it, and will be better. But yeah, it is very sad. I mean, you even mentioned East Coast, you know, not being able to travel across the country, and then imagine if you live in Europe, you may not be able to travel overseas. It's a very long trip. I had never been to BlizzCon myself until I became a streamer, actually. The first time I ever went to BlizzCon was after a year of streaming. So I know how it feels to live in Europe and not being able to afford such a big trip.
Yeah.
It's the big trip. It's a very expensive place. It's expensive tickets. You know, all of those things make it really hard for people to attend BlizzCon. So having the Gamescom, which was closer for a lot of people and a lot cheaper, was nice. It was a mini BlizzCon.
Yeah. So I don't know. They need some positive news coming.
Positive
out
community
there.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. I also hope, I mean, I love the stream background they did for patch 8.2, but I hope that's not going to be in place of events. Like, I can imagine some people got spooked when Diablo Immortal was, you know, booing Candid Camera, but
yeah.
I don't know. I hope they're not like, oh, we had this reaction we didn't like, so we're going to just, you know, stream things from our really cool looking stream room, and that will be how we, you know, do information updates now. We don't have to worry about people being, you know, mean on camera and, you know, having bad PR. But I don't know. I mean, I think that Diablo was a unique case, and I can't remember that ever happening before.
No. I mean, it was a very specific reason people were booing. I don't think people generally boo at news. They might feel...
And the guy should have been screened with the question. Like, that seemed... If they knew it was risky, maybe they shouldn't have just done, like, a open mic Q&A.
Yeah, that's also very true. That's also very true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we can move on to some other things,
PTR.
Leaving the events and talking about the 8.2 PTR and what is new since last time we talked about it. Actually, before we do that, a quick giveaway reminder for the pet Brightpaw. It's a Blizzstar pet. Is it one of the archived ones?
No, Brightpaw is not archived.
All right. So it's a pet in World of Warcraft. You type purr in the chat, Purr, to enter. If you're a subscriber, you have more chance of winning. And we will choose a winner towards the end of the show. We also had Dwarf EC subscribe. So thank you very much for that. And we had 10/20 also subscribe, 15 months apparently. Thank you very, very much for that as well. And Chanthera, hopefully I said it right, with a 3-month resub. Thank you guys very much for the support.
We also have another shard system. You can see it in our information area. Basically, if you watch the show, you get points, and then you can turn the points into get things like a Rocket plushie or Wowhead Weekly pins or premium and some other things. And you can do things to increase your currency. You could try gambling them. You can become a subscriber and I think earn them faster. But all of this is for free as a thank you to our long-term subscribers and viewers. So we're going to do some PTR stuff, and then we'll check back in with the giveaway and subscribers after the PTR blob of info. And yeah, I think first up we have Mecha Gnomes.
Yes. And they look really cool. We have a bunch of new models for, I was going to say headpieces. Not exactly headpieces, but helms, I guess you could say. Oh, Brightpaw just came in here and I just switched scene. Let's go back. There we go. Yes. Hi, Brightpaw.
Hello, baby. Oh, he just whacked my headset with his tail.
Oh. So these helm pieces, are they pieces of armor or actual customization on the Mecha Gnomes?
So these are pieces of actual customization on the Mecha Gnomes. You can layer them with helms. I've seen some really cool transmogs on Reddit of like engineering goggles layered on top of the helms. Yeah. So these
you always look like this without transmog. Yeah. That's really cool.
Exactly. So you can choose between all the cool metallic helms. Then your arms and legs can have different mechanical options. Since we previewed them last, we have different hands. So some are, I'm not good at mechanical terms, but some look like fingers while some look like, actual tool implements that are not hands at all.
Yep. Yeah. They're now shown on the screen. It looks really cool. I'm actually really excited for this race.
They look really good in Uldir gear. Like I always thought, I know we're like, Uldir gear, it's like metallic and boring, but when you add in the Mecha Gnomes to it, I'm like, oh yeah, like I could really go for this. I think they look cool. And I love their hair. I think we mentioned this last time, but the female hairstyles, they've got the cogs in their ponytails.
Yes, I remember. Cool. Super fancy.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, these are not allied races, but Blizzard configured them in a way that they can appear in our dressing room. And the speculation is that if something has a ton of customization options and they look good in armor and they have lots of animations, maybe it would be easy to make them into an allied race, especially because most allied races are just like, they're inspired by existing races. They're not brand new skeletons like, Kultiras.
And it would also make sense if the Mecha Gnomes were introduced at the same time as, for example, the Vulpera. Then the Vulpera would go to the Horde and the Mecha Gnomes would go to the Alliance. Maybe.
Yeah, and I think in the past show we were covering how one of the Brewfest icons was called Vulpera, and that leads people to think that, Brewfest, if all the icons for Brewfest are for playable races except for Vulpera, then maybe Vulpera will be a playable race in the,
I remember future. That. I remember that icon.
Yeah. And Vulpera are kind of like, goblin looking in their skeleton. I believe it's different by this point, but they're, they are similar. And then Mecha Gnomes are obviously a variation of gnomes. So, it could work. But yeah, you can use these in Wowhead's dressing room. You can save on the PTR version. You can save your armor sets and share them with your friends. And yeah, just have fun with them. They look really cool.
They do look really cool.
The next thing we wanted to share in the notes, which was, I don't know if this was a typo on Blizzard's end, but they announced they had updated mount prices and sources, and the griffins, like the griffin recolors, went from 50,000 gold to 90,000 gold.
And it's funny because we already said they were expensive at 50.
Yeah.
And now they're 90. And I saw the list, and there's a lot of mounts.
Yeah.
So this is some major gold sink that they're trying to do. I don't know.
It's not like a long boy. It's like, here's a recolor of the griffin you get for free. It's like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about this. 90,000 gold.
Yeah. PTR is temporary.
Yeah,
anything
so it can change.
Yeah, but our feedback.
3, 4, 5, 6. It's like 7 mounts or something. 6 mounts, so it's like 600,000 gold potentially.
I don't know. Yeah, mounts. That's too much for me.
That's a lot of gold.
I remember back in the day on my server, I could buy trading card game mounts that were up on the auction house for that price, for less than that price.
Yeah, I remember.
Like the rocket, I think even the spectral tiger was around that amount. I mean, this was I did a lot of gold farming and buying mounts on the auction house in Cataclysm, so obviously there's been some
it was even lower there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I got my blue spectral tiger during MOP, because that's when I was selling boosts in challenge modes. And I believe I got it for 350,000 or 400,000. So that was the blue version, and I think the purple version was like 700 or something. So you could definitely get a lot of these mounts for less than $1 million back then, and now they're worth a lot. They're very expensive now.
We don't really have too much new to share with mounts. We've sort of shared them all in past weeks. There's nothing.
Yeah, it's just an update on the price. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll I'll have some Wowhead spotlights, in a few days, being like, here's the video, and like, here's all the colors, and here's the sources. But there's nothing too crazy. The wheel is still pretty cool. The crab is still pretty cool. But nothing crazy yet.
I see someone mentioning inflation 101, but the interesting thing with the TCG mounts is, of course, there's inflation, but there's also a rarity increase because they stopped creating the TCG cards. That means for every day, really, for every code that's used, there's one less of that mount available in the world ever. So the rarity goes up, and inflation goes up. So then it's like even more up.
Yeah, as opposed to the Griffin. The Griffin is just, you buy it at Exalted from the Quartermaster. So it's, the Griffins are not endangered.
No, they're not. They're not going to become more rare. I just realized that I think he was actually commenting that. He says, I'm only talking about the general amounts as gold is so easy to get now. Yes. But still, 90k is still a lot, I think, for a lot of players. And it's not just one mount, it's multiple mounts. So I wonder if that is a mistake or if it's meant to be 90,000.
Yeah, it seems strange, especially because, there are cooler mounts that you can get. Or, even when you look at the Mad Merchant, it's like, oh, like I'd rather have one cool item from the Mad Merchant instead of 7 recolored mounts.
Yeah, and one is a Griffin.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Yeah. Maybe it'll go back to 50k.
Yeah.
It's funny. Now we're okay with 50k. Before, that was too expensive.
I was trying to trick you. It's like, oh, special deal, 50k, get it now. Because, it's off 90 and you're like, oh, 50% off what we thought. That's so good. Yeah. But some models that are, I think, less controversial, that are distinctly cool, is from the PTR built yesterday, the notorious Aspirant and Gladiator weapon models. These are not just boring recolors of other PvP sets, and the Aspirant ones actually have a really cool, like, Naga spellcaster vibe to them, with Tide Sage scrolls as the offhand, and interesting, like, sea and scales engraved in the swords, and then there's Naga tridents. I think that these are very cool weapons.
Yeah, they do look really cool, and I I love the red tint on a lot of them. I mean, I know red means horde, but a lot of these weapons actually do look really good in red.
Yeah, I think it's cool how the Gladiator ones are the blue and red. And they are basically recolors of the Eternal Palace gear. So if you don't like blue and red, you can get a different version in like LFR. But then a lot of the Aspirant gear is more neutral colored, so you can PvP and still get something interesting for your transmog if you don't just want to always be in blue.
And we got a peek of the some of the armor sets as well, right?
Yeah, so these were some armor sets that were not in the first data dump. The remaining ones were filled in. And we have the leather gladiator set, which is okay. And then I think what's more interesting is the leather and mail aspirant sets and new colors only from Nashatar, not PvP, of all the other aspirant colors. And I really like how the aspirant colors get the fantasy that, you know, we're underwater for a while and we're, you know, grabbing scavenged materials and trying to fight. Like the leather set's so cool with all the barnacles on the side and on the hat and the netting. I think it's cool. I know the mail set is kind of controversial though.
The male aspirant horde. Okay, let's see how that looks.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Why do they always get so unlucky? I mean, the shoulders aren't bad. It looks a bit like it's from the sea. But the rest just looks like a, I don't know, boring fish scale.
Yeah, I know what lots of people are like, oh, you know, if you look at the helms everyone get, they all look really badass. Like the cloth has like a witch hat with a brim and stuff growing on it. The leather has a pirate hat. The plate has a bucket with coral growing out of it, and the mail has a starfish as an eye patch.
On the eye.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, so it's like, it's yeah, I don't know. It's yeah. It's different.
It is. Yeah, I can see some of the other ones. So this is the cloth one. I think this is plate. I'm not sure.
The plate has this like the little chloral antenna.
Yes, that was the plate then. And this must be mail. What else do we have here? We have the Gladiator leather.
Yeah,
well.
I mean it's cool, but we've seen the style in the Eternal Palace sets already because you know they always sort of they end up mirroring each other. So you know, they look neat, but I think I prefer the leather aspirant vibe more.
I don't know. I kind of like these.
I mean, I'm happy that, you know, this like they're coming more than one good type of set. I just think that with the Gladiator set, if they're going for Naga, it should be like, I don't know, more scaly,
more fishy,
like less, more fishy.
The colors of the more fishy, like the aspirant gear, is kind of faded, but I guess that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, because you're under the sea.
Yeah, it does make sense. The Gladiator is more shiny, and I guess I like shiny, so that's why I sort of prefer it. But yeah, I guess the fishy gear looks pretty good too.
Yeah. As a side note, with the dressing room having NPC races up in it, you can see what this gear looks like on Naga, and actually the Eternal Palace cloth mythic set looks really good on Naga because it doesn't have much of a silhouette, but it has like a few spiky things, and it stands out really well against the Naga fins. So, speculation, we'll get playable Naga. Right, Pod? Don't rub your butt against the microphone. But yeah, moving on from some of the model stuff, well, I guess we still have one more. We have some interesting Brewfest updates that are coming. Because, you know, we know that Brewfest's getting a pretzel eating contest, and that the Dark Iron and Magheart Orcs are also gonna have a role in Brewfest, which someone pointed out in the comments is actually, it's really fitting because the Magheart Orcs, when they just appeared in Orgrimmar, like they landed in the middle of Brewfest. So it's kind of a weird, quirky like canon thing. How they're like, oh, like yeah, we love Brewfest. That's when we first came to Azeroth. And of course, Dark Iron Dwarfs, were very like they were part of the event before they were an allied race.
So there's a pretzel hat.
Yeah, the garland of grain. It is cosmetic.
Do we know where to get it?
We do not know where to get it, but it does not say yet requires a holiday. So
so you may be able to keep it for good.
Yeah. There's also there's a new currency called the Chowdown Champion token. And there's a ton of new alcohol related to the event, like the Nightborn have the night wine cooler and boxed night wine, which is funny because the Nightborn are very snobby and cool wine, and now they are essentially having like the $2 boxed wine. So I wonder what the people in Suramar are thinking about this.
This is the full list of the different alcohol types.
Yeah.
Boxed night wine cooler. Very fancy $2 wine. Do not question.
Yes.
All right, what else do we have?
Yeah. Something I forgot to highlight in this post we just linked, but if you're following along on Wowhead, the post with Brewfest also talks about some recipes for potions and flasks. And there are some potions that do different things than we're used to. One of them increases your chance to critically strike up to 20%, and then damaging a new target resets your percentage. So like you do more as you focus. And then there is the potion of empowered proximity, where increases your primary stat, and it's further increased by the number of enemies within 8 yards of you. So that's like the AoE potion.
That's actually really cool.
And yeah.
Wait, so are they sold at Brewfest?
Oh, no, sorry. This was part of like the we found items post.
Okay.
And they were added the same day as Brewfest, but no, these are from the new 8.2 faction vendors, which is a good transition into our topic highlighting all their stuff. But yeah, it's basically a profession reset. Like there are more powerful and new professions from the new faction vendors, so you'll want to be crafting this stuff instead.
Okay, cool. Very good to know.
So if we look
we also have some updates on the mounts, right, from these factions.
Yeah, we finally know the almost full list of what it is, and there are 3 kind of cool mounts, and you want to care about these factions because you need Revered with them for the Pathfinder. So I think the mounts are the coolest thing if you want to show them, and the rest are just like, you get, professions and, enchants at lower levels. So right now the mount is the coolest thing on sale. But yeah, so Rustbolt Resistance is the Rustbolt Resistor. It cost 524,288 gold. I feel like there's a joke behind that amount, but I don't know what it is.
Very specific number, yeah.
Yes. And you can also get a Blingtron 7000 at Exalted, and a recipe, no Bright Paw, a Feast. And then the Ancoan and the Unshackled are the Alliance and Horde equivalents, and they give different colored wave rays. And it costs some sort of Mark of Ashara currency, and we're not really sure how you get that yet, but you need 250 of those.
Okay.
I really like the Horde one. I like how it's all stripy. If
I like
Bright Paw
looks more tigery
away. Bright Paw, imagine if you were a ray, you would be this mount.
Matching.
Yes. A cat riding a underwater sea ray.
And speaking of, you talked about a new currency. It seems like we might be introduced to a new upgrade system. Well, I call it new, but apparently it reminds us of an old upgrade system.
Yeah, so there is the system called Chiron Pearling, and it seems that you can upgrade some type of item to 400, and then there is another type of pearl item that upgrades it by a certain number of item levels up to 430, which is the item level of Heroic Ashara Raid Loot, which is, pretty good to get. And it reminds us of the Timeless Isle, where there were, different tiers. Like, you could get stuff by running around the Timeless Isle and then turning it in for a certain item level, or you could get the upgrades and get an even better version of the item by doing more advanced things. And it kind of sounds like that to us. So we're curious to see what that turns into, but more ways of getting gear always seems, good.
Especially if it's not completely random, but a little bit of a grinding system. I think that's something that people have been missing for a while. So being able to upgrade your system based on what you decide to grind is hopefully something positive.
Yeah, and I think that it's cool that this system exists along with Mechagon, because Mechagon is about, getting this customizable trinket and getting punch cards to do cool things with it. And then you go to the dungeon, and the dungeon has the rings which fit together and offer like mini set bonuses. And then in Najatar, you can just focus on getting your items up to a certain level. So there's different gear systems for different slots. But yeah, so Brightpaw has totally closed out all my windows.
Oh no.
But I think we're discussing some Sylvanas spoilers quickly.
Yes, we are. This is the last bit for PTR.
Yeah. We know there's more on the PTR, but some of it didn't really fit into the show. Like, we've already covered the Bane scenario before it was playable, and now it is, and there's nothing really new, so we don't just, want to narrate the entire thing again. And Najatar has opened, but we want to just, explain it a bit more, because we've all seen, the Blizzard pictures of it, and right now we would just have, pictures to show you and not really anything, unique or interesting. But what we did get last week is some more dialogue on Sylvanas' endgame. Do we have a spoiler tag up?
No. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Spoiler tag is up.
Yep. So in the data mine text, we have Sylvanas talking to Nathanos about the next phase of the campaign, which is going to send people to Najatar using the Blade of the Black Empire. And she knows that there's going to be casualties, and she is fine with that. And she implies strongly that there is more to her game besides the faction war. She says the war is serving its purpose. Stay focused on the end game. And we're like, so what is her end game if it's not the faction war? And Blizzard hasn't been subtle hinting that, Sylvanas is not just caring about, life, peace for the Horde. She, even in the pre-patch novellas, she was talking about larger forces sensing her, ultimate motive, and how she was, she's like, oh, Elune doesn't like my real motive. Elune had intervened. She wouldn't be the only force beyond the Alliance to oppose Sylvanas' true objective. So that makes you think, like, Sylvanas right now seems to be on great terms with the Void. She's like walking around with the Blade of the Black Empire, and she's saying things that, mimic, N'Zoth and the Whispers with the Circle of Stars and the Torches. But there are these hints that she has her own path and she's not working with the Void. So I was speculating in this article that, she seems that she wants to master death. Like, that was the reason why she came back from her suicide in Icecrown. She wanted to avoid the eternal torment. That's why she has the Valkyr Protector. And in the comic Three Sisters, she frequently says stuff like, oh, Illyria hears the Whispers saying that Sylvanas is a threat, so that doesn't really make sense that Sylvanas would be working with the Void if the Void seems to hate her. And we did mine some broadcast text that was basically echoing that too. But the thing which is super twisty, which, like, before the show we were just like, wait, does this even make sense? Is that in the Blizzard updated some of the dialogue in the Bane scenario at the end formerly Nathanos said that it was vexing to know our quarry escaped. And we're like, okay, so we take that to mean that, it's too bad that, like we thought the trap was Sylvanas wanted us to rescue Bane and then ambush us and defeat us. We figured that was her trap. But now it seems that the text says it is vexing to allow our quarry to believe they escaped us. And that's like, so it's like, so there's Bane. We rescue him. That was a trap. Sylvanas sends the Sun Reavers to attack us. We defeat them. We think we're victorious. We leave with Bane. Yeah, we escort Sylvanas. But no, she wanted us to...
She wanted us to escape.
Yeah. Why would she want us to escape?
Yeah, so not only is she aware of it, which we already suspected, but she wanted it to happen. That was part of her plan.
Yeah. So, right before that big feedback drop a few weeks ago, I wrote this article, which was cool, but it didn't really get a ton of attention because, hi, 8.2 news. And we were speculating that maybe Sylvanas wanted everyone to work together to, like, lure us into a trap. So, like, we all think, like, oh, we're going to storm Argrimmar together and all be in the same place, and she'll just, I don't know, blight everyone.
Yeah.
So you almost wonder if it's like a big setup, how we think that we're strong enough to defeat her, but we're really not, and she's going to take advantage of that, blind spot to be like, oh, you're all in the same place. How convenient. So I don't know. I think that maybe if something happened to the faction leaders, we could end up in the Shadowlands, which we keep getting, hints of, because Vol'jin is traveling in the Shadowlands. Sylvanas was in the Shadowlands, which you saw that vision of, death being awful, and that's what made her want to leave. And then we also can't forget what Ian said in a Polygon interview where he was very much like, there will not be a trial where she's in chains. Sylvanas is not a character who would find herself in that situation ever.
Yep.
So if she has a plan to avoid her arrest and capture, and we are planning on capturing her, it doesn't really look good for us.
Nope, it really doesn't.
Yeah. And like BFA is all about, more like sophisticated narratives or upending tropes and doing the surprise thing. So we've got Thrall coming back and it's like, oh, the war chief is back. But it would be interesting if, Thrall was successful. Like the people support him, the rebellion loves him, but like it doesn't matter because Sylvanas is out here, playing with cosmic forces. And it's like, oh, well, there's a bigger battle at stake, as the old gods keep saying.
Yep. And then the question is, who will be involved in that?
Yeah. I mean, we even were speculating that maybe, like, she wants to go against the Lich King because, she really hates that idea of the Lich King and, maybe taking his throne or controlling it would mean mastering death. So, like, are we going to get the Lich King, back? Like, will the Lich King become our ally? I mean, his daughter, Bolvar's daughter, Talia, is a major, very positive character for the Alliance. We've got Kalia and Derek that, well, Kalia is like a light-touched undead, and Derek is going off to be purified at the Netherlight Temple. So will they be this, race of undead that is immune to what Sylvanas is doing? So they're like both immune to her magic as well as the void magic. I think it could go in interesting places. But I was thinking that maybe if there was the Gamescom, they would tease what was happening with the war campaign in like 825.
Yes.
And then we would learn more about the old god focus at BlizzCon. But I feel like I was like, wouldn't like Gamescom be cool if it was the cinematic of like all of us looking heroic, like where Sylvanas is, and then Sylvanas is just like, haha, I have to do this, but it's for the greater good, and we're just like, oh my god, what's going on? Like, so, I don't know. I mean, a lot of this is speculation, but we have tried to base it on the broadcast text, which is, Sylvanas has something else going on, and they're making it seem like she wanted all of us to escape and work together, Alliance and Horde.
Yeah. So she somewhat feels like it's successful so far, as long as you keep at it.
Yeah, so I really think that all the hints are showing that she wants to master death and that she is aware of the power of the void, but they're sort of both trying to use each other. Like we talked previously, like, oh, like wouldn't it be cool if, Ashara was using N'Zoth, and that doesn't seem to be the case, but it's interesting to see if maybe that is a dynamic between Sylvanas and the old gods. Like, she's using the dagger, but she wants to use it to master death, or, maybe entrap an old god in the blade. And the old gods are like, oh, goody, Sylvanas is creating a mess, like weakening Azeroth for us to take over. So maybe it's like a race to see who was going to like get the upper hand in their different paths towards, destroying things.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, I'm just like, can we all just get along? Like, can we just not like destroy Azeroth?
Be happy together.
Yeah. But yeah, we are probably going to take a break from speculating on Sylvanas for a bit and focus more on like the Dragonflights or like what the history of Azeroth, because there's nothing really new to say about Sylvanas. There's no new text. So if you have any articles you'd like to see on speculation, let us know. We might have a Brathian one later today because his agents keep showing up in 8.2. So I don't know. Let us know. But yeah, that's about it for the broadcast text.
All right. In that case, we can jump straight into the live game stuff. First off, I'm sure you guys are aware, since you are on Twitch right now or possibly watching from Wowhead's website, the World First race. A very much longer race than expected. 2 bosses, 1 down by how many guilds?
It's on Wowhead's front page. Let me actually... It's power... 70 guilds 70. have killed the Restless Cabal. 70. 7-0.
Wow. Okay. That was more than I expected. And it's been an extra reset time as well now. And still no kill on the last boss. I'm very surprised. I did not expect this. Oh, I need to remove the spoiler tag. I did not expect this to take so long. Yeah, there's no spoilers here. Unless you think a raid boss is a spoiler. Then you should play the game. No, I'm kidding. No, but when we put spoiler stuff up, it's mostly referring to things that are on PTR, which can spoil the story or quest lines or anything similar. When we talk about the game itself, then we will, of course, assume that you have that you know about it. And if you don't, then we assume that you are interested in knowing what's going on.
Yeah. So Method's best attempt was, I think, 2%. Pieces, who killed the first boss before Method, they have not, they're not streaming, so we don't know their progress. But it's obviously not 0 and dead. And the wipes are now more than on Mythic Kill Jaden, which was considered,
I remember,
a huge amount of wipes. The one difference is that clearing 2 Kill Jaden took quite a while obviously, with one boss, it was faster to get to Unat, and there's less pressure. There's less time with re-clearing and doing other stuff because there's no real gear that matters. It's not higher item level. And it's interesting seeing the response to the raid because Method did not go to the Red Bull Gaming Studio, but a lot more guilds have been streaming. Like Limit, for example, they could not raid the full time, but they actually streamed some of their day progress. And there's been a lot of tweets, like even when Blizzard has been nerfing stuff, they're like, oh no, like this is actually really fun, just like working on this super challenging boss, like we're so close, like I want to feel like I earned this kill.
Exactly. Top raiders, I don't think they want the nerfs. I think it makes sense to nerf afterwards, once the world race is over, but I don't think anyone really wanted the nerf in the middle of it.
Yeah, it is interesting though, because I think viewership-wise, it is interesting, but there's fewer people watching it this time because there's, there's not an actual event.
No.
And
people didn't expect 2 bosses to be that exciting either.
Yeah, you don't want it to be too difficult because I have seen there hasn't been as many like hits on the Wowhead Crucible guides as opposed to the Zara lore guides. Like it's still really awesome traffic, don't get me wrong, but I feel that you don't want people being like, "Oh god, like if Method is wiping on this boss for a week, like I'm never going to do this."
Yeah.
Um but I don't know what a compromise is. I mean, I guess there's always, make it be like a standardized tournament. But that's not the case obviously for Crucible right now.
No.
Also, you'd find this interesting. The amount of warlocks Method is taking keeps growing.
Yep.
It is more than half of their raid.
I believe it
As of
was
today.
8 yesterday. And today I woke
Yeah,
up and I
yeah,
saw 12.
yeah. It keeps multiplying. So,
The warlocks are having babies. But yeah, 12 warlocks, and they have a couple other classes for very specific roles. Like we have one mage for the arcane intellect. We have the magic debuff that the demon hunters put on the boss by bringing in one demon hunter. And
yeah.
what else was in the composition? Two disc
They
healers,
had
probably?
they had some shaman because they could use some reincarnation, a clever mechanic. I don't know if this was
Yes.
fixed, but apparently, like you could like go to end time in Cataclysm and summon people there, and it would like remove the cooldown on reincarnation or something by
Oh,
clicking on an
wow.
hourglass. Yeah, so I don't think Blizzard. I mean, it's not unique to Unot. I feel like now that people have figured this out, you're gonna people being like, "Oh, I'm gonna go here and reset this between every pull," and I don't really think they want people, hitting up end time,
No.
even though it's a cool instance. um,
It actually was a really cool boss at the time as well.
yeah, it's also, I mean, just with all like the lore and speculation, the characters in end time are like very relevant in
Mm-hmm.
BFA, like Dark Warrior Tyrande, and now she, is the Night Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, more of a tangent. But yeah, Method has not downed the boss yet. I know they've been trying to do like evening shows recapping their progress because they're not at Red Bull. I was actually on one of the shows discussing 8.2.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's very interesting. I'm almost wondering, like, I feel that the raiders prefer the shorter raid with more difficult bosses because this is going on longer than Battle of Dazar'alor, and it's 2 bosses versus 9. And
Yeah.
people seem to enjoy the competition more. How it's less like, oh, I have to do like you don't. I mean, I could be wrong, but since the raid is not long and the gear is not substantially better, there's less of a need to do a billion, split runs. Like you already have all the gear from Dazar'alor.
Yep.
So I feel like this race almost seems a bit purer than other ones because it's more about the boss. Although, people aren't available to raid, so that messes up the progression as well. But I think that maybe in the future, if Blizzard wants to get more hype surrounding these events, having small raids with a few difficult bosses could be a way to, have more of a competitive aspect to it. Like, oh, boss challenge for January, and then people can try to do it for like a week or so. And if they get it in the first week, great. And if not, it's nerfed.
Yeah.
And that might be better than being like, okay, we have a 9 boss raid, except like no one is caring about like most of the raid because it's easy.
I mean, the first 7 bosses went down instantly, right? Or 6.
Yeah, even the 8th boss, it was all. And
Yeah.
Blizzard had this quote. I forget. I think it was Polygon maybe, where they were talking, or Forbes. They were talking about the difficulty of Crucible before it opened, and they said they wanted the first boss to feel like a mid Dazar'alor boss, which
Mm-hmm.
didn't line up because they were melting in Dazar'alor, and it took a lot more pills to get Restless Cabal down. And they thought that Unot would be equivalent of Mythic Jaina in complexity, and I mean, it is the same, if not more. So it seems like maybe I don't know, maybe they thought Restless Cabal would be easier, but they were expecting Unot to survive for a decent period of time.
So they actually predicted that before?
Yeah, I mean, if they say it was equivalent to Jaina, then Jaina lasted
Oh,
beyond
I
the
thought
reset.
you meant the Raiders. Yeah, of course, of course.
Oh, that was Ian just
Yeah,
talking.
yeah.
So, but I mean, of course, there are other factors, like maybe it's easier, but there are raiders that cannot commit to taking a lot of time off because, it wasn't a big event at Red Bull. Like, I think Sko is celebrating his parents' birthday in Thailand.
Yep.
So,
and Limited
you
didn't even rate properly either. They only rated, I think, for a couple days, and then they stopped as well because of something. People's work hours.
Yeah, the US doesn't really do a good job giving you holidays and days off, so you really have to budget it. And I guess they figured the Ashara raid, would be more hype than a 2-boss raid. So, they planned on, I think, going hard for the Rise of Ashara raid, and they just, they can't. We have like very limited time to take off in the US, and you're already asking people to take a lot off for the Dazara lore, which they did, and then Ashara, and it's hard to fit in Crucible.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, so this will be day 10, I think, of progress, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of funny things to say about all of those warlock pulls that were going on.
People were trolling the streams, like, yeah, remove this class and put another warlock, and then you'll get a kill. It's really funny. Warlocks are just very strong there with their... they have general very good damage, and then they are very tanky as well compared to a lot of other casters.
Yeah, and the circle with teleport, you need that for the fight.
Avoiding the beam, yep. It's just overall really good for that fight.
Yeah.
I think people are playing Affliction.
Yeah, that's what we heard.
I think because some of them at least are using the trait that makes Drain Life strong. I'm not entirely sure though. I haven't looked into it properly.
Yeah.
Inevitable Demise. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's what they're doing. So you see them spamming Drain Life all the time.
Yeah. So another topic which is older, but we wanted to still cover is the... Hi, Luna. Hello.
Just coming to say hi, and then she leaves. Yeah.
The Dreadwake, it's back.
The Dreadwake mount is back. In case you guys don't remember, this was the promotion mount for subscribing to World of Warcraft for 6 months in a row. And yeah, I think Luna might be wanting some food. Very soon, Luna.
Is
very soon.
Yeah, on Luna.
But yeah, this mount was the promotion for subscribing to World of Warcraft for 6 months in one go. And even at the time, they did let us know that this mount will, in the future, be a store mount. But of course, people forget this, and this is what caused a little bit of controversy, I guess is the word. Because people felt like they were sort of cheated on. They thought it was going to be limited for the subscription, but now it's available in the store for everybody. Since we did have a subscription mount in the past, which stayed limited, I think a lot of people just assumed that it would be the same thing, but it wasn't. And it was never a change of plans. This was the plan from the beginning. It's just people assuming that it would be the same as the previous promotion some years ago.
Yeah, Blizzard is probably thinking like, oh, well, not Blizzard, the players are like, oh, Tyrael's Charger never came back after the Diablo promotion. The Last Chance items didn't come back. The BlizzCon Murlocs have not come back. So, I should really get this. Blizzard doesn't bring stuff back.
Yeah.
Now, the one difference was that I believe with all those other items, Blizzard never said the item was returning. They said that with the Dreadwake, but, this is a 15-year-old game. People are just used to habit that if Blizzard says something is limited, in the big print, it's limited.
Yeah.
And like I agree. If you read the blue post, it was not buried. Like Blizzard said, our plans are to have it be a standalone mount in 2019. But like, I run a website where people are meant to read. People don't read beyond the titles.
Yep.
Like marketing would have known that people were gonna not read beyond the buy now limited, and you're like, oh well, the limited means the promotion, not the mount. But and you saw that everywhere. Like you would go to the launcher and it would be like, last chance, and obviously last chance relates to the the 6 month free mount deal. But people are just like, oh, mount, last chance, buy.
Yeah. And then they see it later, it's like, oh, I didn't have to buy it back then? Why did I stress myself, or why did I even bother?
Yeah, it's also like I don't like this, but this isn't something Blizzard invented. Like if you look at Fortnite, they have a shop and they change the items in the shop every day randomly without notice, and you don't know when stuff is coming back ever.
Yeah.
And you know, if you play for free, you get some very boring basic options. So I mean that's just it's just good to keep in mind to, you know, you should always read the fine print, and you should be aware of that this is a common marketing tactic. And I mean, I know Blizzard is not very popular right now, but if you're playing like a different game, or like you've got a clothes brand you really like, or shoes or something, the marketing probably engages in that as well. So just be aware when you feel very stressed about suddenly having to spend your money now. Like you probably don't need to do that.
Yep.
Because if people keep buying this, market and be like, oh well, people are buying it, so clearly they like it. So it's just like, yeah, you know, just be an informed consumer and read the stuff. And if people aren't buying it, then they'll say, okay, well, let's try a, you know, different tactic. So but yeah, I don't know if Blizzard will continue doing this in the future, since we're already talking about being an informed consumer. Those last chance items, Blizzard said that they could come back in the future. So, you know, surprise, they probably are coming back in the future. So don't be surprised when they come back, as Blizzard said they would come back.
Yep. It was mounts and pets, right?
Yeah, it was a bundle of 9 things.
Yes, I remember. Including the transmog pieces too, the head pieces.
Yeah, it was 3. Oh yeah, it was three helms, 3 mounts, and 3 pets. So.
All right.
But yeah, we should do another giveaway break. Bright Paw, come here. Bright Paw. I don't know where he is.
A quick reminder for the giveaway: if you type purr in the chat, PURR, you enter the raffle to have a chance to win the Bright Paw pet. And I'll also use this moment to quickly thank Legend Tater for the 500 bits as well. Thank you. Thank you very much. Did Bright Paw respond, or is he still hiding?
No, I just thought we were giving away a Bright Paw, so it would be nice if I could be like, look, it's a Bright Paw.
But... It's this, but not really this. No. In pixels, this.
You will not get a cat.
But yeah, the next topic up here is the Children's Week updates, which we mentioned briefly at the beginning. Children's Week is active right now, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, May 2nd through 9th. It's up on NA and EU right now. There are 14 pets, up from 10, so 4 new pets this year. And we've got Mr. Krabs, Beakbert, Froglet, and Skelly.
Yep.
And how do you get these pets? Players 110 or higher can get a quest in Borealis or Dazar lore to take an orphan around to new places related to battle for Azeroth. And you can do this quest on alts, so you need 4 characters total if you want to do it this year. And then you can, of course, do it in years in the future. So the Chiron Orphan, you have to go to the Roughneck Camp at Tiragard Sound. You have to go to the Shrine of the Storms. Waycrest, the Horde does something like you have to go to the Golden Isle, the Lair of Gonk. So some places are easy. Some places you might need a map for. We have some directions in the Wowhead guide all there. And then you have your choice of the pet as usual, or the the package that has the extra pet charms, or the Scrooge payment that is just the gold.
Yep. So that's good to know. I know I will be going to pick those up on 4 characters. Was it 110 level that you needed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is your favorite pet?
From these 4?
Yeah.
I need to open them again. I actually had a slideshow, so I was showing people. I can show you guys again. Let me open it. There we go. All right. My favorite, let's see, there's Crab. There's that one. A frog. I think I like Scaly.
Yeah, he's cute.
I think I like Scaly. Oh, perfect. It's the one that's showing on the screen right now as well. But
Yeah.
I think they're all cute though.
Yeah. They all look nice.
They all look
I think I
very
like
cute.
the
Which one's
hermit
your
crab one.
the crab one?
I
Yeah.
think yeah, it looks cool. I think it's also gonna. I like all the Nagitar themed things, and I think this could look cool with the sideways crab mount.
Oh yeah, matching with the mount.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah.
actually a good point.
You only have a week to do this, so you want to get it done now. I know some events are 2 weeks, but this is 1 week, so yeah, you should get it done.
And speaking of events, it's not exactly an event, but things that last 1 week, the time walking for Mists is currently available, meaning you can get back to farming some time walking badges for mounts, toys, transmog, and everything that you might be missing, on top of prepping for the new mounts that are coming with WOD time walking.
Yeah, that's coming May 28th, and there are 2 mounts available to purchase for the first time each for 5,000. The Beast Lord's Iron Tusk and the Beast Lord's Warwolf. So, be prepared now.
Yep.
And you probably want to get it done now, the farming now, because with all these time walking, there's a really long time in between each specific one coming back, so it will be a while to wait for the vendor the second time.
And if you really don't feel like doing time walking and you've decided that you're going to just spam the dungeons once the WOD time walking is here, you could at least do it once on your character, because going into time walking once gives you a quest, which gives you 500 badges, which is quite a big step forward. That's actually what I've been doing every time walking event, so I have 5,000 badges ready on 2 characters, so I can buy the mount when it comes out on May 28th. So just a tip in case you want to know how to get badges quick. Well, not quick, but efficiently. Right. Less time spent, but over time you get more badges.
I see people in the comments also saying that the Chromie scenario is good to do, so do that as well to get initial pile of badges.
Good to know. Good to know. But yeah, outside of World of Warcraft.
Yeah, Anduin. He is back in the Nexus.
Yes. Wait, back? Was he there before?
Oh, I meant like Anduin. I don't know why I said that. But like Anduin
is expanding his wings.
Something else. Yes, he's expanding his wings. He is the latest hero in Heroes of the Storm. I know obviously the game had sad news last year that the content cycle was slowing down, but it's not totally gone. And Anduin is a new healer that made his way in so he can fight with his dad. And he's got some interesting skins representing different territories outside of Stormwind, Darkshire, Redridge, Elwyn, and Westfall. And his dad has new skins as well. The Stormwind Footman, who, kind of looks like the Blizzcon statue.
Yeah.
The Stromguard Footman and Kultiran Footman Varian. I think this is also cool, but his mount that we see in Battle for Azeroth, Reverence, in the Lordaeron scenario, he's like running around. The mount is in the game as well, with 3 different tints. And it looks pretty similar to the WoW one, so that's interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. So if you haven't seen enough of Anduin, you can now find him in Heroes of the Storm. Yeah, you were saying?
Oh, there are some jokes as well that are interesting. Like, I mean, obviously it's like not as much of a serious game as WoW, but it's stuff like, the light will abolish the shadow in all its forms. I personally would never resort to its dark methods, except when playing Hearthstone. Sometimes that game brings out the worst in me, because the priest has all the shadow spells.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize how difficult and awkward it is to grow up in the spotlight. Your every success and every failure laid bare in front of the entire world of Warcraft. That is
Warcraft.
true. Like, he's been, he was like a little kid with a little model in Classic, and now I was like, Anwin, why don't you have peace? And he's like, I'm just 18. Leave me alone. Let's see. Any other ones that seemed interesting? Oh, there will be peace one day. At least I think there will. Oh, how many WoW expansions are left again? Oh, well then. Like, we can't have peace because we always must fight every WoW expansion.
Yep.
But yeah, he is off in the Nexus.
There needs to be wars.
Yeah, he's off in the Nexus right now. So check him out. We just we think it's cool to highlight when WoW things appear in other Blizzard products.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And that was all of the things to cover for the past 2 weeks technically, since we didn't have a show last week. So it was BlizzCon, the Gamescom news, the PTR updates, and then the few things to do with the live game.
Yeah, and at this point next week with the show, we will all the BlizzCon tickets will be done.
Yeah.
The 4th and the 8th.
Yeah.
So
by the next show, if you don't have a BlizzCon ticket, it might be very difficult to get one unless you find some kind of secondhand thing somewhere, which will probably be more expensive. When was it going to be sold again? It was May 4th? Yeah.
Yeah.
May 4th, 10 a.m. PDT.
And Wednesday, May 8th, 7 PDT.
7
so
PM.
There's the Saturday one is more European friendly.
Which is the May 4th one. Yeah.
Because that's like 7 p.m. for you guys, while the Saturday one is
3 a.m.
2 or 3 a.m.? Yeah.
The Wednesday one, you mean? Yes.
Yeah, the Wednesday.
Yeah, the Saturday is the EU-friendly one. The Wednesday is the EU non-friendly one.
Yeah. And hopefully we should have some good stuff for next week. Like, we'll be doing a lot of Nazjatar and Mechagon exploration by then. And that seems really exciting. So should be a good show next week.
I can also see that Enimas is the winner. So you gotta say something in the chat within the next 2 minutes to claim your prize. So congratulations. Apparently there was a different winner before who did not respond. So he or she lost it, unfortunately. Maybe Enimas can claim his. But yeah, that brings us to the end of the show. I'm not sure if we had any questions that we wanted to answer.
Sass did not give me any questions.
All right. So maybe I think we're good in that case.
Yeah.
Maybe give Enimas a second.
Yeah.
No one sent you a question? All right. Yeah, I think a lot of the things that we talked about today were pretty straightforward. And I think for the most part, people are just waiting for the next boss to go down. So it's a bit of a sort of middle ground and things.
Yeah, we'll be doing a class. Yay.
Congratulations, Enimas.
Congrats.
And yeah, you were saying?
I was going to say that we'll be doing like a little class spotlight, I think, on like why the guilds are using those classes and highlighting the Wowhead guides if you are, being like, oh my god, I need to play Affliction or else like I'll never, be able to do LFR Unat. So that's not the case, but if you want to learn how to play the classes that seem to be in high demand, we'll be highlighting the guides to those specs.
All right, well, giveaway wrapped up, show wrapped up. This is our cue.
We can actually do the high five. Like,
yes,
is it
we
this
can. We haven't done that in ages. Yes, that's the one.
Yes, exciting.
Wait, that's not the one. Okay, here. Yes.
Wait, this is it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went for the wrong one for a moment.
All right, so we're gonna do this.
Yes.
All right, so
3,
2, 1.
Perfect. Yes.
Yay!
Even with the sound effect, we did it. Thank you guys. No, thank you guys for watching, for supporting, hanging out, for sitting in on the Wowhead front page if you're still there, sitting here in the Twitch chat. Thank you guys so much for being around and making it possible for us to do this. And we will see you all again next week. Not the same time, because today's show was actually a little bit late. But the regular time, which should be 10 p.m. CEST, and for NA? 1 p.m. And Luna's doing something in the background. 1 p.m. PST.
Yep.
We will see you guys then. A regular time next week, Thursday.
Yep. So,
bye-bye, everyone.
Hopefully, new juicy PTR build before then. Yeah, we will see you soon.
BlizzCon tickets secured. Maybe more PTR stuff. Maybe more news on more things.
Yep.
See you then. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.